Hello and welcome to another episode of Life Talks with Ayo Fawole. We have the voice behind the camera. Sorry, that's a wizard. So I was eating chocolate just before we started. It's really bad of me. We have the amazing Musa in the studio.
Thank you.
My fellow countryman. Your title, how are we going to title you?
Musa The Moor.
Musa The Moor. Nice. As in the Moors.
Yeah. You know who the Moors are, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. A lot of people... They're
great black icons for me.
Yeah, they're just about getting familiar with the Moors. I mean, the Moorish history is very, very old. And that's why I like to use the term. And once again, people with black and brown skin are Moors when they came to Europe. When they entered Europe into the European imagination, they were described as Moors. Those that came from Africa. You see what I'm saying to you? It's the Moorish. The term Moor is going back as far as ancient Rome. It's not. You're
saying BC or AD?
BC, because it's not. It doesn't just start with Tariq, the General Tariq that came into Spain in 711. It goes before that.
So wait a minute. So this wasn't there a black Caesar?
You're talking about Hannibal. You're talking about Carthage.
Oh, is that Carthage? Is that
Carthage? That's Carthage.
Right. Who was he? He
He fought the Romans. The Carthaginians fought the Romans. Called the Punic Wars. Hannibal fought the Romans, Scipio and all them.
Wait. Punic Wars. What's his name? What was the
Hannibal?
Hannibal.
Hannibal was the leader of Carthage.
Right, cool. I kind of know a little bit about that because of TV shows and films. I nick information from.
Yeah.
Before we break everything down.
Yeah.
And we go intricately into the carcass, the inner carcass.
Yeah.
I want to understand who you are as a man, Musa The Moor.
Yeah.
And why you're such a wealth of knowledge, because there's a reason you're sitting across the table from me. Like, everyone's got a different reason for sitting across the table from me, but yours is to educate me. This is my reason anyway.
No problem.
To educate me, educate the people back home, to illuminate black history, and to bring out stuff that may have been lost in translation or lost between the cracks, or not told to us because it didn't benefit anybody except for us. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
I want to know who you are, why you know so much about history.
Right.
And then we can start talking about everything you know about. That's just for the people at home, you know?
Okay. So, obviously, I'm born as a Yoruba man. My family is Christian. My dad's mum was from a Muslim. They were Yoruba Muslims. And then before that, my great-great-grandparents before that, they are traditional. What they call in Yoruba, Isheshi.
Isheshi?
Yes. Ifa, Yoruba religion.
How do you spell that?
Ifa is IFA. And the spiritual center for Yoruba religion is Ile-Ife.
Ile-Ife. I'm from Ile-Ife.
Yeah. So that is where the Yoruba came and determined that city as their spiritual capital. Ile-Ife is to the Yoruba what Mecca is to Arabs, what Jerusalem is to Hebrews. It's the holy city.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Thank you for educating me.
Yeah.
That's where my family's from.
It's not no simple. That's the seat of the Oni. It's the highest head of the Yoruba tribe. You got Obas, and then you have Oni.
Oni of Ife.
Oni of Yoruba.
Oni of Yoruba.
Yeah. It would be like
that's a king, isn't it?
Yeah. No, priest king.
Prince king.
Priest king.
Priest king.
Because he's like, it stems from, that's before Nigeria became Nigeria, is what we know it today, where they got the president of Nigeria. The head of the Yoruba is the Oni. That was the president, king, whatever. That's who we answered to. We didn't know nothing about other people. We knew about the Oni. The head of the Hausa Fulani, would have been the Sokotov Caliphate. That's who they answered to. And the head of the Igbo would have been the Igbo Council.
Okay.
Igbos didn't have a king. Igbos were the first one of the first people in sub-Saharan Africa to practice democracy. They didn't have a king. They had a political councilman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you always been into politics and understanding Black history from you as a young person?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because gangs. Gangs is the new tribe.
Okay.
Africa is made up of tribes. Like Europe is made up of tribes. Like Asia is made up of tribes. But when the colonial period, where they're trying to delete history and delete identity, so when people came to, let's say, they immigrated to America, or they immigrated to Canada, or they immigrated to Britain, then they start to form gangs. And people are walking up and down like as if, oh, okay, yeah, I'm a gang. But a gang is just like a tribe because you're dealing with peoples and their relationships with each other and the wider society. There's gang relations, gang between other gangs. There's the politics behind all of that, and then there's times of peace and the times of war.
When you say gangs, the word gang is normally has that stigma behind that word. Gang.
Yeah, big time, because they did that because the term gang, it goes back into the slave period, the plantocracy, which is just the plantation, where the slave master divided the Africans into gangs. Yeah, so it's not something that just pops up. Not when we're using it as Black people. Europeans, have got a different legacy, different story, but Africans were shaped into gangs.
And those gangs would have been what, like the field people, the house people, that kind of thing.
Because they divided the plantocracy along certain lines where they wanted to keep Black folks divided but working, for the fear that the Africans could come together and try to cause revolution, uprising, or hurt the plantation economy in a certain way that would hinder the slave master or colonial master's economic profit. They could not afford that. So there's a routine and a regiment that they were running. So they formed gangs. Gangs goes in the African consciousness, in the Western Hemisphere, goes as deep as the slave colonial period.
With all the information you have in your head,
Yeah.
how do you feel when you talk to white people?
Oh, I feel I'm not intimidated by them. White people, they assume that automatically that the Black person in front of them does not have knowledge of self. So they,
Can you repeat that, please?
when white folks speak to Black folks, usually they assume that the Black person in front of them does not have the knowledge of self. So therefore, and also a lot of Black folks have that insecurity of not speaking on who they are for fear of intimidation, or somewhat they don't want to rock the boat.
Or be ostracized.
Yeah, or be ostracized. They want to be accepted. So they don't talk about it at the workplace. They don't talk about it. Let's say they're prominent people within our society. They don't talk about it in public. They don't talk about it when they're being interviewed. They play that part of themselves down in order to be accepted or to integrate into society smoothly without any kind of hostilities and hindrances.
How much damage do you think that does?
Tremendous damage, because you start to what they call play the game, which is very dangerous. You playing the game and it's like you're playing with your soul. You're trying to be something that you're not. So you're trying to present yourself. You're putting on a face in front of people to pretend to be a certain type of way, when behind closed doors you're not that type of way. And what that does is it creates a type of schizophrenia, split personality. Start living some type of double life. And so it's important that the knowledge of self and being yourself is of the utmost importance.
Excuse me.
But you have to be willing to take that risk, even if you lose opportunities. Certain doors close.
And then, wait, I don't want you to lose it. The knowledge of self and being yourself is important.
Yeah.
Even if you lose opportunity.
That's correct.
I want people at home to hear it. That's why I stopped to repeat it, because these are jewels and gems.
Yeah.
People talk about the gems and jewels and podcasts, whatever. But I want to make sure people hear the stuff, because what's coming, I'm receiving that.
Yeah.
I like that. Can you say it one more time, please?
Yeah. Being yourself. Knowing yourself. I don't know if I can say it word for word.
No, being yourself is very important. I can't remember as well. That's why I was so hard on like saying it. So you said it. Yeah. Jules, Musa, please continue.
When I'm flowing,
please continue.
So it's they became, let's say, out of survival during the colonial period, when we were taken from Africa into the Americas, which is North America, Central America, South America, and the Caribbean. They stripped Africans of their identity, and then Africans, by the slave master, was divided into gangs to work different sections of the plantation, whether it would be picking cotton, growing rice, sugar, cutting sugar cane, different things that they put the African slaves to work. They divided them into gangs. It's very important to keep them working but separated, so they don't spend too much time colluding with each other.
Divide and conquer, isn't it?
Yeah, but this is where the fear comes when you find too many black people standing together, too close together. People will look over, foreigners will look over and say, "What are those black people up to? Why are they standing so close together? What are they talking about?"
But then surely the fear is it belongs to the people looking, not the people, not the.
Yeah, of course. But remember, if you was caught as an African and you became a slave, you was in because there's different types of slavery. There's domestic slaves that the Africans practiced. Then there's chattel slavery, which is what the Europeans practice, and what the Muslims practice. Domestic slavery.
Sorry, excuse me.
When let's say two African tribes was fighting, and then one African tribe got the better of you. They captured you, but they didn't strip you of identity. Understand? Or if you was born into a lower class and you was property of an African chief, he didn't strip you of identity. You worked. You
still knew who you was.
You still knew who you was, or maybe you worked. You worked for that family for maybe like 8 years.
You was eating the same food.
Yeah, maybe you worked for about maybe 8 years, and then you could work
it off.
You could work off and become free. It wasn't.
You could practice your religion.
You could practice your religion. You could, all of these things. So it wasn't absolute control over a human being. But chattel slavery was, which was what Europeans and what people from the Middle East practiced, which is the Arabs and the Turkish and so forth. They practiced chattel slavery, where they was dealing with complete ownership. They owned you like a can of Coca-Cola. Every thought, feeling, action was determined by your master. You have no say-so in it. So it's different types. Slavery has always existed in all ancient civilizations, but there's different types of slavery. There's got different headings, different wording. So
it's always in your learned knowledge.
Yeah,
it's always existed. When did it become, or how did it become the thing? Like, I've heard rumors that it was a Spanish that started a certain thing off with the actual not Willie Lynch thing. I don't know if that's propaganda or not, but with that whole fear of the black man and why they should fear the black man, the propaganda of how to fear the black man, and then the demonic, I can't say the word, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
The demonization of the black man or black people. I think it started in Spain. That's what I've heard, but you would know better than I would.
At some point within the last 500 years, the Europeans put together, and Western Europeans, because those are the colonial empires, the Western Europeans.
Can you name them, please?
The British, the French, the Portuguese, the Spanish, the Dutch, the Belgium, Germany, Italy. Those are the main ones.
Do you think there's a reason why, like, I don't know, Croatia, Poland, Latvia, Slovenia?
Because they weren't as strong. So that like those, let's describe everybody as a tribe, because that's what we all are. The Western European tribes at that point in European history were the strongest. Ancient Rome had fallen. It's fallen a long time ago. So Italy didn't have that complete domination like the way they used to. But Western Europeans were still strong. They became strong over time.
So the infrastructure, was it built by the Romans then?
Yeah, but
Rome had a lot of the world at a certain point, right?
Yeah, Rome conquered Europe. Greeks didn't. Greeks conquered somewhere else.
Okay, so
Rome conquered Europe.
So my point is, at the fall of all of this, when it does crumble, they've still got some of the doctrines, some of the lessons from the Romans, the infrastructure. I don't know.
Yes.
That's how they become more powerful than the other places.
Yes, because Rome left their infrastructure. Rome left their engineering. Rome left their.
So they're ahead now. Even though
Rome even left the idea of the concept of conquering or dominating someone else. A lot of inspiration comes from Rome. When you hear in Nazi Germany, when they use the term the Third Reich, it's a term that it comes from being the successor of the Roman Empire. So they in the Germanic people's mind, they believe that the Third Reich was the true successor of the Roman Empire, where the Germans are the new Rome.
Dickheads.
Well, you know.
Oh, sorry, that's my own personal opinion.
That's your way of.
That's my personal opinion for Hitler. That's my personal for him.
That's your way of looking at it. But you see, he thinks what Hitler thinks he's doing something right for his tribe. To him, he doesn't see it as wrong. As far as he's concerned, as a German, he's representing his tribe.
Germany, yeah. But even in the reason I said that is because of all the stuff that's come of it, all the whole, just what I know about that Hitler stuff and that. We won't digress too much about the Aryan race, the trouble, the persecution of black people, persecution of Jews, because persecution of anyone who wasn't really like from their tribe, basically.
Yeah.
Even though I'm aware that this is how it goes. This is like you just said, there's certain like African tribes that will take you from the next village and have you there. This is life, the survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
Even though that, my understanding of that and the amount of history that we've been given on that particular subject, and maybe we'll find out what the reason is for that, has caused me to give that.
Oh, okay.
I don't know half the stuff about our African history to even have an opinion.
Yeah. But during when the Africans was warring each other, they hadn't reached genocide. They didn't have genocidal wars. One, because they wasn't necessarily wired that way. And two, they didn't have the weapons to cause genocide to another African tribe. There's only so much killing you can do with a spear, a machete, an axe, and a bow and arrow. They weren't killing on that scale. To cause genocide, you need to have access to certain weaponry that can cause havoc on a large scale. Or you have to have a thirst for domination, like to want to take over an entire region. You know what I'm saying to you?
Yeah. You can have a dark mind or dark kind of ethos,
or just ambitious, very, very driven.
Not to be happy with what you've got in your own country, but you know.
So we didn't have necessarily those type of drives. We could produce them as Africans, but those characters that they're not common. When we do produce them, like Shaka Zulu, they're rare. It's not the common that you've got an African leader and he's hell bent on conquest. You have them though, but they are produced. Those type of personalities were produced more so outside of Africa.
Do you know any others that you could name African ones? Because Shaka Zulu just seems to go to for a lot of people.
Well, you had one of the kings of the Yoruba, Shango. Yeah. Sango. You miss out the H because in Yoruba language the H is silent.
Okay.
Now, it's like when you say Shegun.
Shogun.
Yeah, but you don't say it. You spell it Segun.
Yeah.
Saying Shegun is like saying Shango. In Yoruba spelling is Sango. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
Shogun.
yeah. So you had
That means thank you if you don't know.
yeah. Modupe.
My man.
It's all coming back to me now.
Oh man.
So this yeah.
Shango.
We had
Excuse me.
some of the kings of Abyssinia, Ethiopia.
Okay.
King Azana.
Azana.
King Azana.
King Azana.
Yeah, he was the first Ethiopian king to convert to Orthodox Christianity.
Okay.
Yeah, Abyssinia was the Ethiopia, Eritrea, Djibouti, that whole region of the Habesha people. They was known as Abyssinia or Axum, AXUM. And they at one point they became known as the Imperial Ethiopia, and they controlled Ethiopia and then Saudi Arabia, Yemen, the coast of Saudi Arabia, where parts of like Medina and these type of places that the Arabs control now.
So they controlled all of that at one point.
Ethiopians to control the trade of all of that region.
So what happened?
Well, it's history, isn't it? That's when Africans were strong and active. They weren't the flat-footed, docile, lacking ambition type that you find today. That when in those days Africans were active. Africans' names rang bells far beyond the shores of Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rome,
there's no TV, no nothing.
No. Rome knew about us. Greece knew about us. Persia knew about us. All the famous empires knew about us. That's the days of ancient Egypt and the pharaohs and stuff. Everybody knew about Africa. Africa was to be revered. Africa was to be feared. Africa had knowledge. And then there's a turning point where the Africans went into decline and they lost consciousness of the planet as a whole. And it became very, very
when did this happen and why did this happen? How did this happen? Do you have a definitive time when it happened? Or is there a definitive time in history or something that show?
It was we started to show Egypt was getting invaded many, many times during the
Germans?
No, there was this period. This period was
it's too much Indiana Jones, guys.
Yeah. This period was, because they converted to Christianity roughly the same time that Ethiopia and that converted to Christianity. It's around about the 3rd or 4th century. But Rome already controlled Egypt. Rome controlled North Africa, Egypt, the Sudan. So that's let me show you like this.
Yeah. Bust
so
out, man. This is Rome. Oh, that's Rome up there.
And they control North Africa. And they control. That's the Sudan. That's all
Sudan.
North. Yeah, that's the Sudan.
And what's this? This is the Middle East.
And that's Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, Middle East.
And
is Saudi Arabia in the Middle East?
No, back then, check this. What's interesting? There was a time when we used to draw the African map, we used to include Saudi Arabia. The boot of Saudi Arabia was part of Africa. We didn't used to separate it. It wasn't part of the Middle East. Then it was part of Africa. So Rome, at its height, controlled all of North Africa, the parts of the Sudan, and parts of Arabia. Was all and Rome under Constantine converted to Christianity. He was Emperor Constantine was responsible for making ancient Rome, which was a pagan civilization. They used to worship Mercury, Venus, Jupiter and all these.
Yeah,
Are all,
Zeus.
those, yeah, Zeus. No, Zeus is Greek.
Okay, yeah. My bad.
You understand? Yeah, the
Yeah.
Greeks.
I know the Greek. I know the Greek gods.
Yeah,
When you say it now, it makes sense. I know the difference between the Greek gods and those gods.
The Greeks were
They're big
first.
gods, yeah,
The
yeah.
Greeks were first, but the Greeks.
The Greeks were first to what? Convert or to have their the pagan gods?
The Greek civilization was before Rome.
Okay,
Yeah.
but they didn't. They was
But
gone.
the Greeks didn't. The Greeks didn't conquer Europe. They conquered parts of Africa and the Middle East. They went the other direction.
But the heat, they went to the heat.
Yeah.
But the Greeks, yeah, didn't they come and learn philosophy from Africans and then come back as if?
Yeah, they did.
That's what I'm saying.
Greco. At that point, you know, he's got Greece, and then you got the Greco-Macedonians. Macedonia's next to Greece, and they're like brothers.
Yeah.
Cousins, but they became one. And you know, Alexander, being a Greco-Macedonian, he had these ideas of conquering. So he went to all the known civilizations of that time: Egypt, Babylon, Persia, India. He conquered all those territories. You understand? But he went that direction. The Romans came after, and Alexander, and
They're allegedly great.
yeah, and Herodotus and all, a lot of the top thinkers, they had trading with Egypt, and sometimes they used to come to Egypt to learn and philosophize and so forth. Yeah. So that is very true. They used to come to Egypt regular at some point. So they had traded. Greeks weren't the only people that came to Egypt, but Greeks are on record. Greeks are on record for coming to inquire, because the Greeks were into philosophy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You got
Aristotle and them.
Aristotle, Socrates, Plato.
Yeah.
These are now in their own rights, for whatever reason, whoever wrote the stories, prominent names in history, prominent philosophers now.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be said of them learning from the black people.
No, there is. But what black people fell victim to is foreigners convincing black people that the Egyptians are not black. They tried to say that Egyptians were somebody else, they came from someone else, but that's just not true. The Egyptians are black, and they are as black as me and you. The black Egyptians are the Sudanese. The Egyptians that you see today are the result of natives being mixed. Okay, I'll show you how simple this is. So let's take, for example, the rapper Drake. All right. Drake is the product of a black man and a white woman. In one generation, that's all it takes, is for black folks to go from looking like Shabba Ranks to looking like Drake in one generation. So imagine if a large percentage of the Egyptian population was mixing with foreigners. It can quickly change the demographic and the phenotype of a people. So this is the reason why people say, but how could it possible? I went to Egypt and they don't look like it. The black Egyptians are the Sudanese. They went further south into the Sudan. The ones that stayed in Egypt was getting mixed with the Greeks, the Romans, the Persians, the Turkish. It was over time, their phenotype changed. Got a little lighter, hair got a bit thinner, hair got a bit straighter through mixing. Some, a lot of the people that came to Egypt, they didn't leave, they settled, mixed with the local population.
Nice, no?
Well, it's when you're not. The key is to have a good memory, because when you forget, those who don't remember history are destined to repeat it. So that raises the.
Say that again, please.
Those who don't remember history are destined to repeat it.
Telling you, yeah, for real.
So when you don't when you have poor memory, or you can't recall things, you don't put things into time and date in chronological order. You don't know why you are in the position that you're in, or you don't know what your forefathers did right and what their forefathers did wrong. You're just going along with everything's just no. There's a lot of things happening that we need to be conscious of, so that we don't repeat the same mistakes when in the 7th century, the rise of Islam via the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they came into Africa, and they. What's interesting? Arabs conquered Egypt. I think in a space of like less than 2 years. It's one of the quickest takeover of a nation. It's that quick. The speed of how a nation gets taken over is quicker than what you think. It's not, how does that happen? It's whether you're in a position to either see the danger, resist the danger, manage the danger via protecting your borders, and if you don't have the ability to fend off invaders, you quickly get taken over, and then your history gets rewritten, because history is written by the conquerors. I'm gonna say that again. History is written by the conquerors, not the conquered. And so that is when, let's say, language changed. The Sudanese used to speak Nubian. Nubian. Yeah, because they were from the Nubian tribe. They're black Egyptians, like I was saying to you. They're the Nubians. Ta-Nehisi. Nubians. Moors. They used to speak Nubian. But when they got invaded by the Arabs, or they traded with the Arabs, invade trade, which is usually how it goes, they went from speaking Nubian to speaking Arabic.
Invade trade,
because there's either two things that visitors come in for, and one is to visit, and the other one is to trade. I mean, one is to visit and trade, or the other one is to invade. We're living in a time where when civilizations met other civilizations,
can you put that here, man?
they could have either peaceful agreements, or they could be going to war.
Do you think it's that easy to take over a country now?
100%. Do you know why? Because let's take for example Russia, Ukraine. If Ukraine didn't have the backing of the West, Russia would have taken over Ukraine, hands down. You see what I'm saying to you? So the same ambitions that some men and women had in the past, some men and women still have today. They still have a certain
humans are not changing like that.
Humans are not changing like that. It's because especially
greed and desire and all that kind of stuff.
No, but remember, people learn. You see, in the same way I look at history, there's somebody else looking at history.
Yeah.
And somebody else can either be inspired by certain events and say, I want to recreate that, or they could say, no, that was wrong. Not everybody in history thinks.
Make sure that never happens again.
Not everybody in history.
So excuse me, man. I'm freezing.
Not everybody in history thinks Joseph Stalin was bad. Joseph Stalin was a Russian leader. Everybody thinks
Stalingrad.
Yeah, not everybody in Russia thinks Joseph Stalin was bad. Some of them think he's good.
What was his story?
Oh, you know,
quick skim.
That's during the time of when Russia was the USSR, and it was a lot stronger than what it was, because Russia used to control all of that Ukraine.
And Stalin was from the USSR.
Yes, he's from Russia. I think
with love.
I think Stalin was.
I know the name.
I think he was originally from Georgia.
But you see, that's the thing. I know all these names. I know Stalin, Hitler, the Battle of 1066, the freaking the Alamo, all this bullshit. And I don't know half the stuff I want to know about Ilefe and the Maasai warriors. That's about all I know about the Maasai warriors.
Yeah, because Africans and Afro-Caribbeans still have a colonial mindset, so they don't revere history.
Why? What is that about?
They don't have a role model. Okay, let me ask you a question. Who do you look up to? When you was growing up, who did you look up to?
Who do I look up to?
Yeah. Who did you model your character on? When you looked at it, said, yeah, you know what, I like the way that man moves, I want to be like him.
Numerous different people, but no one specific.
See? It's too hard to put into
people. No one specific.
All right.
No one specific. Lenny Henry was wet. I like Lenny Henry now, but he was wet.
All right.
Will Smith.
Principally.
Will Smith, how can I model myself against an American guy who's sent to his aunts for no fucking way? If anything, I would have more.
Definitely someone to look
So
up
no-
to.
so-
Nah, man, I
Yeah.
wouldn't look up to him. I look up to. You know what? To be honest with you, I used to look up to what's his face, Sidney Poitier. Who else was there? Eddie Murphy was in my time, but more time because I was so washed. Maybe Clint Eastwood and certain other people as well. There's certain because we were just like over here, we're getting all different kind of
all
things,
right.
and they were made to be cool.
All right. Now watch
But
this.
what's they weren't cool? What's they weren't cool to me?
All right. So watch this.
Will Smith weren't cool. Bill Cosby, yeah.
All right. So watch this. Who did you look up to when you was growing up?
Like I said, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I used
All
to
right.
watch him as a
So
child.
all right. So watch
Not
this.
Not like I wanted to be him, but
All right. So watch this. Remember this. And he's a fictional character, but it's okay. Remember, but he's non-threatening as well. Also, and we're living in the time of
Muhammad Ali.
we're having a okay. Boom. That's a good one. How much black people really embrace the ideology of Muhammad Ali, but we're gonna get to that though. Notice that we're limited in the choices that we have
100%.
of who to look up to, and none of us have yet to say our dad.
Yeah.
You understand? We're saying everybody else except our dad.
My dad was a man.
You understand?
I know the reference point.
And if not your dad, then your uncle or your granddad, because boys model themselves off the men in their family.
Yeah, there weren't that many men in my family.
All right. So okay.
That was it. Was really women. I'm looking at women.
All right. So okay, your
Right, I can see where you're going.
your choices is limited. All right, watch this.
Modeling ourselves off a fictional.
Now, if let's say that we was Chinese, and I said, who do you look up to? Chinese people usually have their mum and dad in their life, so a Chinese boy can look up to his dad. Then Chinese people have so much different role models or images of Chinese, from Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Buddha, Confucius, this one, that one. They've got so much different.
They've got the whole.
So much-
No, wait, they've got the whole things as well. They've got the whole dynasties and shit.
All right.
I even know about
all
the
right.
fucking
Okay,
dynasties.
because they got the history.
Yeah.
Now watch this. If we was European, we would have so much different choice of role models to look up to. I'm saying I don't want to leave out women, because the women of those peoples, like the women in China, have Chinese women to look up to too. You know what I'm saying to you? Like Zhang Ziyi and Michelle Yeoh, and anyway.
I mean, yeah.
They got women in China to look up to model themselves on. Europeans, they have Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, Clint Eastwood, James Dean,
James Bond.
John Wayne,
James Bond.
James Bond, Wonder Woman, Kylie Minogue. The list is just endless.
Incredible Hulk.
The Incredible Hulk. The list is endless. Everywhere you look, they've got someone to look at. Whether
Frank
real,
Sinatra.
Frank Sinatra. Whether it's real or it's fictitious, they still have images to look up to. You see what I'm saying to you? Captain America, all of these things, proud images, not people acting a fool. They got serious characters to model themselves on. When I grow up, I want to be like him. It's not uncommon and it's not frowned upon if a white person wants to be an astronaut or a marine biologist or a physician or mathematician or something like this. They not only have people to look up to, but they do the courses that are revolutionary, the sciences and the mathematics and the technology. They involve themselves in things that's going to change the world completely. Whereas when I was going to school, a lot of black people did not like, quote unquote, the hard subjects, the science and the mathematics. And if they had the brain for that subject, they didn't want to emphasize that because they didn't want to be looked upon as a geek. They wanted to be cool. They're walking around school, black folks walking around school, wanting to be cool and willing to diminish their intelligence to be cool and accepted. Because if you came across like you was too intelligent, man would look at you, you're a nerd or something. You know all of that. They had an approach to education that was dunce.
It was dunce.
That was dunce. to an extent. If he was funny and he was strong or whatever, that but you couldn't have the brain of a genius. Even today, the black community, so-called black community, they're intimidated by black intelligence. Talk less about foreigners. You go around black people and you appear to be too intelligent. They start looking you up and down like, nah, you're overwhelming. That's why blacks, they struggle to produce black equivalents of Einstein and Nikola Tesla and these type of people. They struggle. I'm not saying we don't produce them, but we struggle to produce them.
What you're saying, what I think you're actually saying is they're right there, but they're not producing themselves. They're not presenting themselves then.
Yeah, but
there's representations of this within our culture, but they're just not presenting themselves then, or they haven't presented themselves in the past maybe. That's what I'm getting from that.
We struggle to produce them because of either the fear that comes with it or the responsibility that comes with it.
What was you like as a kid?
Tupac Shakur is a very intelligent man. Got straight A's.
You got straight A's?
Tupac got straight A's. Okay. And in school, I had the capability of getting straight A's, but I became discouraged because the Western education wasn't reflecting what I wanted to see. So I had questions. I was born to a Christian family, right? But I went Roman Catholic school. So how you're questioning us? How was I as a kid? I was a curious kid with deep thoughts that was frightening to my parents. Because let's say I used to take a lot of my themes and concepts here from cartoons. There used to be this cartoon Brave Star. Eyes of the hawk. Ears of the wolf. Very nature based.
I remember his horse.
All right. Yeah.
I remember it.
So I remember that. I remember I used to wake up early.
Was Native American.
Yeah, Native American. And it was still
that was still promoting the cowboy though.
All right. No, but listen, it was deep because there was a lot of science in that. And the person that used to advise and counsel Brave Star was the shaman. Remember the shaman, the wizard with all the powers? So magic, voodoo, obia wasn't in that world of Brave Star wasn't taboo. I remember I used to watch Captain Planet. I used to watch XMen. I watched there's many things that came on that was shaped my thinking. They used to have the Mega Man cartoon in the early morning, and they had like the computer game Mega Man.
Yeah, I know the game. I'm trying to bring. Whoever I could picture them.
Yeah, Mega Man, and they had
How old are you?
38. So all of these things used to come on, but they used to come on early morning before school.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And so
Saturday mornings, early morning before school, or after school, so a little window period.
So they had all these cartoons. Defenders of the Earth, and they had Visionaries. I used to have the toys. Visionaries. With the light, that one there. Yeah. All of this is going on. Black folks didn't like magic. They didn't like magic, and to say that you was interested in magic or the occult was alarming, frightening. It was, they would look at you like you was a devil. You weren't, even today. If you went outside, you spoke to the average person. So, tell me something. What do you practice? What do you believe in? Oh yeah, practice obia. Obia is an Igbo word, Obia. The word obia means doctor, and it came because there was in Igbo society, you had the physical doctor that would heal you if you cut yourself, broke an arm, broke a leg. But then you had the spiritual doctor if you had mental, emotional, spiritual issues. You went to go and see an obia man or obia woman, spiritual doctor, which is what in the Western world they call those people counselors, psychiatrists. But in the African world, they deemed the mental.
Need some water?
No, I'm good. They deemed the mental state something that was connected to the spiritual realm. So if you was troubled mentally, you was troubled spiritually. There was a spiritual connotation to you having mental trauma. And it's also true in the Native American world. It's also true in the Aborigine world. It's also true in the Maori people from New Zealand. It's also true in the Native Americans in Central and South America.
Do you think that?
And also in ancient India, when you had the gurus and the swamis. And
Do you think that is one of the reasons for the magnitude of mental health within the black diaspora, because of not having that there anymore, being out here in Western worlds, suffering things that may come from a spiritual place, but trying to treat them with a medical remedy, or trying to treat them with remedies that that ain't for you. That is like maybe an Irish remedy or a Chinese remedy, but that's not where you come from, so it won't work on you, basically. Do you think that's part of the problem?
100%.
Because certain things you just like, like certain behaviour that will be exercised. There's a lot of mental health right now. I'm going to let you answer in a minute, Musa. Sorry. There's a lot of mental health right now, especially in the black community. They're saying about there's mental health across the board right now. But there's certain things I think if we was in our own environments, there'd either be the shaman that you're talking about would be able to identify what's going on. But then, like my learned friend, voiced by the camera, who's not here today, says sometimes there's when you reach evolution, like from boy to man.
Yeah.
Certain rites of passage. If you don't go, sorry about mum, really blocked up. Yeah. If you don't take those rites of passage, there's something lacking in you, and then you can react. Act out.
Yeah, because there's.
I need to turn this off. It's blocking my nose, man. Yes, oh mate, I'm going to soak in a bath when I get home, mate. God, sorry, Musa.
Tradition is very important. What they call well said, rites of passage or coming of age. Or when you're going from
certain cultures, make sure they do it for them.
All tribes used to have some type of culture that was the turning point from childhood to manhood. Now we had things like birth ceremony, coming of age ceremony, marriage ceremony, funeral ceremony, birthday ceremony, the day of the dead, where we used to honor the dead. All of that used to be in Yoruba tradition and Zulu tradition and so forth. Yorubas had 4-day-a-week calendar.
Of what?
Of
mourning.
No, just the way they used to record time. Yoruba used to have
4-day week.
4-day-a-week.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
4 days a week.
Wow.
I think
how did it work?
13 months in a year of the Yoruba calendar. So how did it work is they divided it. Yoruba's because our society was agricultural, so we depended on nature in order to intervene with the growing of crops and harvesting and so forth. And so the priest and the priestess was like Storm from XMen, and they used to do things to the elements to make it rain, and so forth, grow crops and so forth. Yeah. It's all nature based,
and there was
just like the cartoon,
times a year,
like the cartoon Brave Star. It's very nature based.
Yeah, but this is the problem with us now. We got food, 365.
Yeah, but
there's certain things 365 that it's not having its normal season. So when we're consuming certain things, we're not benefiting from it. There's no you'll wait until harvest or you'll wait until whatever before you're eating certain meat, certain things. It's a celebration, like you said. It's all ceremonial. When there's none of that that is now causing the gluttony and certain other things, which is in turn causing other knock-on problems.
The Western civilization doesn't deal with nature. It comes away from nature. It's materialistic, capitalistic. So we went from, remember the Industrial Revolution? We went from agriculture.
I know about it, but I don't remember.
But we went from an agricultural society, and where farmers tilled the land and so forth. We went from agricultural society to an industrial society where things became mechanized, and they dealt less with manpower was less limited, and they brought in more machines.
But we went
to
from
operate.
one thing to another. Though before that, we went from hunter-gatherers to
some tribes was hunter-gatherers. Some tribes were stationary.
Station.
If you can,
From
yeah,
the beginning?
let's say, yeah, but it's just characteristics. Let's say the Fulanis were like gypsies. They used to wander up and down.
Yeah, they call them, first one call them Fuller man.
Yeah.
No,
So,
man, Fuller.
but you had tribes that you know, the Igbo that would have been more stationary. Well, the tribes that used to move and tribes that used to be static. So they didn't really move around, depending on how they the lifestyle. No, you know, tribal leaders, they kind of set the tone for how the tribe was going to be and what, you know, how they were going to conduct their affairs. So as much as the way they do things in Sweden is not the way they do things in Bulgaria, but they're both European, but the history is different because they're tribes, isn't it? You understand? They may be related, but they're not the same. They're,
Probably kissing cousins.
yeah, but the history is not interrupted in Europe in the same way. So the Europeans know their history. Let's say Asia is not interrupted in the same way. Asians more know their history. The Africans, their history's got a lot of gaps. It's got a lot of holes. Not to say that it can't be recalled, but the Africans don't appreciate history in the same way other nations do, and so therefore they suffer because of it when they're making.
But how can we appreciate it if half of it was taken away? Like it was systematically, like manufactured in that way to make us weaker. Because what I'm hearing,
Yeah.
is how we are today, the flat-footed African man who's got no desire for certain things. But this was manufactured.
No,
The same fear that you're saying people had in us, they had in us from back then, so it's manufactured. So it's harder for us, basically.
Yeah.
How do you bridge that gap?
Because we're not okay. We're not doing enough to honor the history by celebrating it or protecting it. Let's say.
But how can you protect something you don't know that much about?
No, but look, Africans. Okay, black people came here. Windrush generation, 1948 and 1949. You understand? They came to this country, the UK, but then they went through certain struggles in the UK. How many black parents speak on the struggles that their grandparents went through when they came to the UK? I'm just talking within the period of the last because it's 2022, in the last 70 or so years, from the Windrush up until now. Even that history is how it's recorded and how it's being told is not. Blacks are not doing enough to share their experiences with each other and their descendants about what they went through when they came here to this country.
All right, so I want to say this. I want to ask you a question back.
But does that make sense though?
It makes sense.
Talk less about ancient Egypt. I want to talk about the last 70 years. It's poor understanding.
Yeah, but I want to talk about black people were probably here before the Anglo-Saxons.
Yeah, but
in here. I'm just saying that piece of information. If you don't know, if you know it, it puts another. It still gives you another another bolster.
But if
you know you're here before technically white people, so it isn't an English country.
But if you can't remember what you did last month, if I was to ask, let's say I was having a conversation with you, and then I discerned from the conversation that you can't remember what you did last month.
Yeah.
Is there any point in talking about ancient Egypt, thousands of years ago in BC? Let's deal with what we can manage, without getting too far lost in the past. And 70 years is not a long time. I mean, what I'm trying to highlight here is that black people have, on average, a problem with communication because they don't know how to speak intellectually and articulate their experience, positive or negative, in a way that resonates with either their partner, their children, etc., or father, son, mother, daughter, whatever, or in the relationship that they enter. They don't know how to have meaningful conversations. And when you don't know how to have meaningful conversations, things are lost in translation. How many?
Wait. Okay, so the Europeans and certain other people, because of the nature of everything that's gone on, They don't even have to have them meaningful conversations. I'm not asking for a rebuttal yet. You understand? Because you've got the Supermans of this, to this, to this, to this, to this. Even if the dad or whatever ain't talking to them, they've got the images out there. And they've got stuff out there to access. Do you understand?
Yeah, but they
Like, so they may not be communicating in the same way, but if that isn't, you're not with us. We're the only source, maybe sometimes.
Yeah, but we're coming from defeat. They're not.
Yeah.
Europeans for the last 500 years have been ruling the world.
So you're saying because coming from defeat, you should be more proactive in change, in making a change, or trying to get that win, or explain certain things.
If
some people when they're defeated, they're defeated.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You know what I'm saying? They're like, fuck it, let them have it. Let them have the cup. We'll take second, third, fourth place. It's all right. And I think that might be the attitude of certain people. It may be changing now. It might not be your attitude. But certain people in the past, especially the Windrush generation, for certain people coming over, they just wanted to get a better life. So they was more interested in making a better life to go back home. But a lot of them got stuck here. I'm not trying to tell them one story, but that's what you got from that. So they're dealing with this placement from their home. Displacement from all the stuff around in the food, the weather, all of this, the infrastructure, all of that, and then having to now explain all of this stuff, something that may be a scar to them, and they haven't even been told how to construe certain information. Explain that to your child about how I lost and there was a certain way and certain. I'm not saying it's right, Musa The Moor,
Well, all right.
but I'm just saying, like, I understand it on certain spectrums how hard it is. Me and you are sitting across the table, right?
Yeah.
I've asked many people to come and sit across the table from me.
Yeah.
Some because of their activities, but some because of their own personal insideness. They can't have this conversation, bro. And that's what it is. Us having this conversation is fundamental and it's detrimental to it's fundamental and it's needed for some people to understand. But we can articulate like this. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm just merely saying that some of the people that were defeated or some of the people within the black diaspora, they've never been taught how to talk. Some of them don't know how to tell the people they love you. No, like the last generation. It's hard for them. So I'm not saying it's right.
So a lot of them are they're very cold.
Yeah, very cold. And they was told this regimental way to behave. They was told when they're coming over. I don't know how much different it was from the fucking slave ships when they were coming over, because they're still coming to a foreign land. They're getting treated like shit. They're being told this is what it is. That's what it ain't. It's what you're gonna be doing. That's what you ain't gonna be doing. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like it was a couple steps away from slavery as far as I'm concerned. Like a certain amount, but it was still in the same freaking genre.
Well, check this.
Go on.
Check this. How old are you?
46.
All right. So you
I've seen a lot.
Let's say in your time, remember you still would have had characters like
Margaret Thatcher.
You still would have had Tupac Shakur.
Yeah.
You still would have had Public Enemy.
Yeah.
Voices that were speaking out. Margaret Thatcher did a lot to ruin the UK.
Yeah.
Take away the youth clubs.
Yeah, she's done loads of shit, but I remember stuff like that.
See, which is very important. That stuff needs to get talking about a lot.
Yeah, I remember stuff like that. And that changed a lot of stuff in the cities, bro.
Well, watch this. Marcus Garvey came to the UK. Muhammad Ali came to the UK. Malcolm X came to the UK. Bob Marley came to the UK.
I know about Bob Marley. He even came to Rainbow in Fuji Park, bro. I know about that.
Came to the UK. There's a lot of...
Bob Marley was here for a piece. He liked it here.
Yeah. There's a lot of interesting people that came to the UK. Even Haile Selassie came to the UK. He was during the time when Italians was controlling Ethiopia. Haile Selassie came to the UK. He's living in Bath, the city of Bath. Real talk. So look at all the black characters that came here to the UK, but still, black people in the UK. I'm saying because these are resistant characters, revolutionary thinkers. But then black people didn't do enough to hold on to these ideas, interact with these type of folk, and use it to generate some type of self-reliance and self-independence.
But you got to think about the regime that we're working over in here. Like, remember, I've listened to this though. I've lived in America and I've lived here, bro. America's different to here. The way the way the British infrastructure is made, right? Them people could have pockets of stuff in America, but to come here and do have the same kind of impact, but it's not going to fucking happen. It's not going to happen. It's going to be 10, 20, 30, 40 times harder. Back then, now, it's a possibility. If that was happening in this day and age, it's a possibility, bro.
You're saying, you're already saying from the jump, oh, it's not going to happen.
No,
but watch this. Your generation were still willing to do crime, steal from post office and these things, and jeopardize their freedom, put themselves in harm's way. They're willing to take that type of risk, but they're not willing to take the risk for freedom and liberation.
You could see the freedom and liberation in America. You couldn't see the freedom and liberation here. If you fought it, there was pockets. There was very segregated in America. You got your black neighborhoods. You could stick with them. Here, it was just about money, bro. Here, it's about money. As far as I'm telling you my story, bro.
London, in London, they had riots.
Yeah.
Notting Hill riots.
Tottenham riots.
Yeah. Brixton riots.
Yeah.
I think like Liverpool, they had riots.
Yeah.
Birmingham had riots.
Yeah.
So black people were having riots because they wasn't adjusted well in the UK.
Yeah.
It was so bad to the point, the president of the Jamaica came to the UK to speak on racism and racial injustice because it was that bad at one point in the UK.
Yeah, I can believe it.
You understand? I think it was the then President Norman Manley. I think it was came to the UK.
So what about? I'm missing a point.
So what I'm trying to say is that all of these things was going on, but blacks didn't organize. They didn't put things in place to say, you know what, it's time to do something about this. They were given money, but the money that the British government gave them, it was a lot of times used to pacify.
Have you not seen what's going on now in the media and everything? Even with the transparency of the media, there are still people at certain points, like they're just we like a proactive fire, they're pouring water on it. There's a negative fire, they're pouring kerosene on it. But from before COVID, it was all stabbing. The propaganda machine has been relentless, and it is relentless.
But black on black violence is happening.
Yeah, but how do you? I'm saying to you now, look at that guy Kanye, what he's going through. I'm not saying it's not possible, but fighting the propaganda machine then, because we're talking like 80s, maybe early 90s, late 90s. I must fucking say late 80s, early 90s. To stand up and get that, you disappear. You don't.
So you're already speaking about, before you speak about the positives, you already speak about the negatives.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you see, it's twice you've done that.
Yeah.
I noticed.
Because that's what I know about.
But because you've been conditioned. But look.
Yeah, definitely.
The same way blacks was getting a hard time, racism and so forth.
Yeah.
During the period of the NF, Teddy Boys and all that.
Yeah, I got stabbed.
Yeah. What Asians,
Huh?
Indians, Pakistanis.
And then it was getting. They used to get it.
They used to get it as well. Paki bashing and all these things.
Yeah, I remember.
But look at, for example, look at the two groups, the black groups and the South Asians. The Indian man, Pakistani man, his ability to cope, resist, his robustness, and how he's adapted to Britain has been more effective than the blacks.
No, but you've got to understand that like you said, their history wasn't broken. They've got a direct line to their lineage. They wasn't as dangerous to the British, the Europeans, as we were. But they still treated like shit. Certain things were taken over their countries, but it wasn't treated in the same way. They know their history. So they're plugged in. They come over here. In their houses, they're speaking their language.
You see,
they stick together.
You see what you just said there. It's a very good point, and that's why African Caribbeans should have tried even harder to implement
their culture
in their culture
to keep it,
and to organize it and to form strong bonds with each other in order to better deal with the onslaught of racism today and future generations to come.
Yeah, but as far as I was concerned, I didn't know about in the 70s and all that, but I went through the time when fucking Jamaicans were calling black people Nigerians bubbles and all them fucked up things like that. You know what I'm saying? But then also, the Jamaican diaspora, I remember them having things patterned as far as I'm concerned, more patterned than I know the Africans to be patterned. But I don't know. I just know what I saw as a child. Like, they would have their Sunday dinner, they'd have their blues, they'd have their certain kind of infrastructure where they kept the community together. Yeah, that was the Jamaican thing, as far as I know. Do you understand? Like bringing their culture over here. But then
Jamaicans were very prominent, but they weren't organized. Like the Trinidadians weren't organized, Guyanese weren't organized, but Jamaicans were the most rowdy. Because West Indians,
When I say Jamaicans as well, I'm talking like I'm being quite racist myself.
Yeah, but you have to be no. We have to be fair because you got to give. If you have to give credit where it's due, or you have to give criticism where it's due. But Afro-Caribbeans in this country were the first to lay the foundation of what you call street culture. You know what I'm saying to you?
And they sat down their stuff.
And to be...
and they cracked heads.
Yeah, and to be influential and have a sound system and all of that. That's Jamaican heritage. That's not coming from Guyana. It's not coming from Trinidad.
All of that
it's not coming from Barbados. It's not coming from Grenada. It came from Jamaica primarily.
And then the Africans, we didn't do. We had a bigger continent. We didn't do much. But then what about all that work that was put in? The head cracking, the beating up, the police brutality, all of that stuff. After going through all that stuff, it's gonna take its toll on you as a human being, as a man. No,
it's just the African Caribbeans, and I'm saying that is in Caribbean, Black Caribbeans and Africans. They have a more. They some of us enjoy the violent aspect of things, but once that
what's that supposed to mean?
The violent aspect, the confrontation, conflict, fighting, they like that aspect. Some of us like that aspect of things, but that is very temporal. It doesn't. It's temporary. Beating a man up or trying to defend yourself and so forth. It's short lived. They didn't. Black British people in this country didn't follow up on the attack or the self-defense that they were going through.
Why?
Because they take, as black folks, they tend to take their foot off the pedal.
No, but you got to remember, yeah, for me as well, like you said, let's give praise and take away and we don't take away. You got someone black here in the 80s, even in the mid-90s, trying to put their foot on the pedal, yeah? Like trying their best to put their foot on the pedal. You know how much it takes. I'm not saying, I know people that have done it. One has been here, he said he sued the police, he got paid. That's a guy who was here a few weeks ago. Yet still, this is the place of institutionalized racism that people is only coming out now, where police can be kidnapping people and killing people. But you know how hard it is to go through that, and how many people will succeed in that? I'm just asking, how many people do you think will succeed in that back then, without getting knocked by the custody guy at the desk, the people that arrest you, the person you're trying to push it through on. Even now, I know someone who got dismissed from work because she's a black girl in a white thing. The way they handled her and they shuffled things around, she wanted to fight and everything. She never stood a chance, bro.
Okay, let's say
go on.
Notting Hill Carnival.
Yeah,
is the biggest. It's the biggest street party in Europe. Not just in Britain, in Europe.
Yeah.
I remember Notting Hill Carnival was set up by Claudia Jones and them.
Yeah.
Originally, Carnival was most prominent in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, I remember.
Claudia Jones is from Trinidad and Tobago. And so out of the racism and all the rioting and so forth, one of the things to make black people feel more at home in Britain, it was to bring the concept of the carnival from the Caribbean over here. Caribbean and the UK's Notting Hill Carnival used to be black, predominantly black. And then over time, if you went to Carnival...
I went,
yeah,
for the first time in a long time.
It's predominantly white.
It looked like The Waking Dead.
Yeah, or it's multiculturalism. So remember, and that's a lot.
Yeah, it looked like The Waking Dead.
Yeah, and that's a lot to do with the reason why it's gone from black to white or predominantly white or mixed is because black folks have, to a degree, compromised and have allowed their tradition to be diluted, watered down. You see, our traditions, we're not protective enough of them. Me and you couldn't go to
Diwali.
Do I
haven't said it right?
Yeah. Me and you couldn't go to, there's Jewish festivals that they do. Black people don't go there. There's Chinese festivals. Some people do go there, but it's a Chinese thing. Chinese New Year, Chinese this. Other festivals that lack multiculturalism, African Caribbean traditions have a overemphasis of multiculturalism. Everybody's involved in our stuff more than us even, and it's because of us that this festival's even taking place. So look at the compromise we're willing to do. Look at the things that we're willing to negotiate. You see that with Mobo's Mobo Awards.
You need to be more close.
Yes, yeah. But I'm saying that we need to not only. I'm not saying that we need to be more close, but we need to be more one, we need to establish that we own it. Two, we need to be more appreciative of it. We can't be so quick to sell it. We can't be thinking about money before the principle. You understand what I'm saying to you? So it's a sacred festival. It's an important festival. It's dear to us. We don't sell it because someone says that's not from our culture. Puts £1 million on the table and says here's that.
But you see, you says that other cultures we don't really mind mixing with them.
Yeah.
And within 2 generations or something, our culture could change to different colours because we're so open to mixing with other cultures.
Yeah.
Whereas I found with other cultures, they tend to still stick with their traditions and stick with people.
Is it? Say, check this. If I was, for example, if I was let's say I was I don't know, Indian man from India, and I liked to dabble in other people's culture, but I didn't like you to dabble in my culture. Am I, as an Indian man, am I at an advantage or disadvantage? If I was a Chinese man and I like to dabble in other people's culture, but I didn't allow you to dabble in, am I okay? If I was Russian and I like to dabble in other people's culture, but I didn't like to dabble in, you understand? You see the pattern there. It continues to repeat itself. If I was Polish and I like to dabble in other people's culture, but I didn't allow you to dabble in mine, so I'm you understand? I'm here, you're here. Or you see what I'm saying to you? So, or if I was Arab and I like to dabble in other people's culture, but you can't dabble in mine. You understand?
That's what happened.
So, check this, because a lot of people like to go to Dubai. Now,
Never been.
I've never been, but check this. As a foreigner, you can't become a citizen of the United Arab Emirates. As a Saudi Arabian, a foreigner can't become a citizen of Saudi Arabia. You cannot become a citizen of Qatar. You can do business. You can do certain things, but
you marry?
But huh?
Can't you marry into it?
Oh no. It's very, very, very hard. Remember, they've established their society for their people. They can't have somebody that's come along from the outside and then ease themselves into free education, free healthcare. And that. You're not one of them. You're someone else. Their system is for their people.
Saudi Arabia, they've got free healthcare.
For their people.
What was they go over there? I'm gonna go Saudi, man.
There's a free education, free healthcare, and that's for their people.
Yeah, but
their way that even they structure their laws is for their people.
Certain places in Africa must have that same.
No.
It must do.
No.
If you come from a bag, you can change shit. You're saying
not even close.
You said if you come from a bag, you can change shit.
Change shit. You can own shit.
Sad.
Not even close.
Let's talk now. You said to me I was talking. You said to me I was talking the negatives, which was quite right. So
all right. How you change?
Let's both change. Let's look at solutions. Let's look at the next 5 years. Let's look at the next 10 years, next 15 years. How we can empower the youth. How we can reverse what's happening or augmentate it. Change. You know.
I think it was Elijah Muhammad that said, women are the pinnacle of society. You can measure a nation by its women. If the women of that particular society or tribe, well behaved, upright, so forth, it sets a certain standard for the society. I'm saying that to say this, that let's say if it was talking about a specific group like black folks, African Caribbean, the women have to show both interest and desire to have a certain standard within the black nation or the black community. When the women of our people become more and more fixated with, concerned with the plight of their situation, they can, by way of their behavior, make men of their people change and adjust their ways. just the women to set the tone. If women also set the communication singly for the upliftment and empowerment of us as a group of people, you start to see the way people start to change, because now the women are calling for it. A lot of movements, black movements, they don't focus enough and emphasize on the women. They'd like to be the man in front and the woman behind or at home. Women have to come on board. Women have to be willing to set the tone, because a lot of black women want to be someone else. You can see it in the way their hair and the way they dress. They want to be someone else. And then you got a lot of black men that want to be someone else because a lot of women want to be someone else. So black men want black women that look white. What black women want black men that look white.
What you're saying is very, very sad.
You know, black women want black men that look white. He can be black, but he has to have a white kind of a, you know.
I never heard that before.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is.
It makes sense.
You know, that colonialism and that conditioning, we've been Europeanized. So, you know, if you have a European style and features, I don't know if you're light with soft hair, it's more appealing than being dark with coarse hair. Whether it be a man or a woman, they would still want the one with fairer skin, straighter hair, or softer hair. It's that conditioning to say that light is right, off that which is foreign is better than that which is native. So I want to be more like God rest his soul. I want to be more like light skin Michael Jackson than as opposed to black Michael Jackson.
I thought you were saying a statement there, but you wasn't.
Yeah. So these and then having these conversations, these meaningful conversations with black women, and black women having them with black men, because relationships are very important. A lot of, like we said earlier, a lot of black people we're not really too good at communicating. If you can't communicate with your girlfriend or wife, and if the girlfriend or wife can't communicate with a boyfriend or husband,
it's fair though, isn't it?
it's fair. But if what is a relationship if there's no communication?
What is there to be fucking scared of, bro?
But what is a relationship? If you produce
that's us on top of your question. What is a relationship if you can't think? What is there to be scared of? I'll add it to your question.
Because of the scared of their own shadow.
No, but scared of the ending, scared of this, scared of that, scared of something you should be scared of.
Scared of the unknown. Scared of the uncomfortability of speaking about certain things. They're coming from a troubled home. They're coming from trauma. They got emotional.
They're being judged, isn't it?
They're got emotion, yeah, and they don't want to be maybe be seen as vulnerable or so forth. But these are all the layers that they have to get past, and they're entering relationships and they're having children, and so
before even getting past these layers, you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah. So they're not even trying to establish any kind of grounding, and plus they got crisis of identity, so they don't know who they are. You see what I'm saying to you?
I hear what you're saying, and I understand.
So
how many black men have got crisis of identity, do you believe?
Too many.
Do you think that's a part of the mental health that we're having right now?
100%. Black women have mental health in so many ways. Like black men have mental health, but it's just that
unhealthy mental health.
The Western world is more willing to integrate the black woman than it is the black man, because the black man can pose a physical threat. The black woman, not so much.
I get
the females of a people, white, black, brown, yellow, are not the first point of threat. It's the men or the male of that nation are the first point of threat. So they more fear the man of a people than the women, because the men tend to deal with the fighting or the capability of putting somebody in harm.
Or they don't want to switch and just say, boom.
Yeah.
I don't like this.
Yeah, in harm's way. Not so much the woman. So women need to, the women of a tribe need to inspire their men and convince their men, and the men need to be more cooperative and protective and communicative with their women. But if you can't have that, healthy relationship and communication, that's when you have men going with foreign women, black men going with foreign women, and black women going with foreign men because they feel that they can relate. This man understands me better. This white man understands me better. I'll go with him. I can talk with him and be around him in a way I can't be around black men.
But you're a fucking novelty. It's a novelty thing. I've got something for you as well, man. What advice would you give to our young people, men and women? Because I've known this whole episode is going to have loads and loads of advice. I think one of the best pieces of information I got from you is if you want to implement change, it starts with your women. And it makes so much sense with all the stuff that's going on TV, on the music videos, on the internet, and all that. You weaken by sexualizing the woman, you weaken the nation.
Well,
I see that. But I want to ask you what your advice would be to our younger generation, how for them to either implement change, be able to live a better life than we have. Like, not having to go through all that, like we said as well, come and get it all out. Sometimes I'll go in the room and I'll have to make the room accessible for myself. I have to be like, hey, how you doing? And make people feel comfortable, because the automatic reaction to me walking in the room is everyone gets there uptight.
Yeah.
Which isn't, it's not good for me, it's not good for them, it's not fair, but this is how society is in this country. I shouldn't have to make everyone feel all right, because other people walk in the room, they don't have to go through those things we have to go through. Yeah. That in itself causes a problem. Some people can work with that, like, fuck it, I'm gonna go in there and rob everyone because they're all scared of me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I know people that have worked off of that and done that.
Yeah.
And not exercise better things in their life. Go on, sorry.
I would say, I'm gonna quote Malcolm X when I say this. We need to return back to Africa. If not physically, if we don't have the financial funds to do a physical return back to Africa, we need to do a mental, cultural, spiritual migration back to Africa. And we need to start looking into things like genealogy, especially if you come from the genealogy, especially if you came from
that's to do with your genes in your body.
If you came from the transatlantic slave trade and you lost your identity, they need to do certain genealogy blood tests and so forth to start to retrace steps back into Africa. Northern Nigeria and Nigeria is the same.
Nigeria, okay, I know about that.
There's a house, let's say Hausa land is Northern Nigeria, Niger, Chad, and parts of the Cameroon. That's Hausa land. So now you've got all these borders going through. So you've got Hausas living in
Chad,
Nigeria,
Niger, Cameroon.
So it gets silly. People, you understand? And they
want to claim their own.
And they're a country. But there wasn't a country before. There was known as the Hausa land. You understand what I'm saying to you? So colonialism has done a lot to hurt us by drawing borders through our land, causing division, and imposing European languages on us, like English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and all these things. We need to reclaim history. We also need to pick up a language, our tribal tongue, Yoruba, or another tongue, Swahili or Arabic. Yeah, or Arabic, or anything that is spoken in the continent.
Arabic's hard.
Yeah,
I'm trying to learn Arabic now.
Yeah.
It's
anything
hard.
That's spoken, anything that's spoken,
hard.
Anything that's spoken in the continent.
You speak Arabic?
I'm struggling.
Shukran.
Yeah.
Afwan.
See?
I said thank you. No, shukran.
Yeah, no, shukran.
Shukran.
Yeah.
You say afwan, isn't it?
Afwan.
Yeah, afwan.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's not easy. You know what I'm saying to you?
Yeah. No, I know it's not easy. I know it's not easy.
We need to get Arabic bilingual speakers. See what I'm saying to you?
Yeah.
So, all of these things are very important. We need to understand the importance of religion, African religion, and then the new religions that came in and how they shaped our character, personality. The pre-colonial and slave period, what we were doing before then.
Wait. Go back. Backtrack 1 second. Say what you said before.
What I said about the religion.
Yeah.
And I said how it impacted religions when they came into Africa.
Yeah.
On top of the African traditions. And how it impacted us.
I'm sorry, this text threw me. I was going to ask you a question about religion. How about how religion has affected us?
Because it changed.
Doctrines have affected us and work and everything. That's how that's part of the brainwash, right?
It can be depending on how the religion's being taught. Mali was an empire. But Mali Empire, just by itself, is the size of all of Europe. So
Like everything.
So I'm saying that even the way they draw maps is somewhat deceiving, because Africa is bigger than what the map is saying.
Yeah. I saw that. I saw
So let's say all of
They've
Europe.
got Canada's so big and then Africa's small.
Yeah. All of Europe, all of it, fits just into West Africa.
Show me.
Yeah. Let's say this is Mali. Let's say Mali, the size of this. That alone is the size of
All of Europe. So when you say Europe, please break it down for the people at home. Name the countries.
Western Europe, from Western Europe, Spain, Spain.
What, Spain, Greece, Portugal, Italy, everything.
All the way to the other side, to Eastern Europe. All of Europe fits into Mali. Yeah.
Africa for the Africans.
Yeah. So this is we understand. You have to understand geography, longitude and latitude.
Longitude and latitude.
Yeah. How to record and measure space and width.
These are things I want you to, at home when you're watching this show, if you're young, even if you're old, take these things into consideration. Try and be bilingual. If you can, there's loads of apps on your phone to teach you stuff these days. If you come from somewhere, what's the harm in you learning something new? Learn your language. Teach your two children. Reach one, teach one, as you said.
I watch this. The nobility.
Nobility had Islam and the jump up like a paganism.
The nobility of Mali converted to Islam. It's like Mali was
So
like,
when? What years?
I think it was like 14th century.
All right, let me ask you this. No, let me just say this into what you were saying as well about the Malcolm X quote.
Yeah.
Like, when I first went to Nigeria, that's the first place, like, I felt like a man. I didn't feel like a black man. I didn't feel like that. I felt like a man, bro. And I think that the quote is very important. What was it again? It's even if you can't go back physically.
If you can't go back to Africa physically, you don't have to find.
If you can go physically, though.
Yeah, if you can go physically, if you've got the finances to go to Africa, go. But if you can't go back to Africa physically, then we have to take a mental, spiritual, cultural migration back to Africa. Yeah, that means be concerned with African spirituality or African language and African clothing and Afrocentric type of thinking. Yeah, divorce from Western thinking or Eurocentric thinking and become more African minded.
I like that Afrocentric. We got not much long left. If you got anything you want to talk about now, anything you want to ask me, you can ask me. Anything you want to hit today, you want to hit. But we will be coming back. This is part 1.
I told you time would fly.
Yeah, it's fine. It always does. I love it.
Yeah, I need a time would fly.
But this is part 1, so I might even keep that and we'll go back to this, and we'll stick it back up on the next time. We can go where we left off. We know where we left off.
Yeah. So okay, let me break down something real quick.
Yeah, cool. You've still got a little bit of time. I was just letting you know, so we don't have to run out the door, basically.
Okay, let's say.
Why you doing that to my life?
Judaism.
I'm in bits, man. Yeah. Whoever's got me mash up, but my brother took me back home. I'm in the studio learning about Black history with Musa The Moor. Come on, you done know. Second for the day, he's breaking it down there. Some geography up there. Got the wizard over there. Only God knows what he's doing on the phone. Yeah, I hope you're having a good day. God bless you. Love you. Love yourself. Love life. Life talks. Musa. You get a peace sign? What up? All right. MUSA, yeah?
Yeah.
The Moor.
Yeah.
MOOR.
MOOR. Yeah.
You gone?
So check this now. Judaism came in on the scene into Africa 3,500 BC. Christianity came into Africa around about 2000 BC.
Hold on a minute. What Judaism? What's that?
Judaism's right there. 3,500 BC.
Oh, yeah.
Christianity 2000 BC.
35 BC is before Christ. If you don't know,
Yeah.
they should know. But some people don't know these days. You know that.
Would you pick up a scorpion?
For what?
Instantly. That for what? You said you owned a cat, but you would pick up your cat though, wouldn't you?
No, but you see, that's another thing as well. If my cat's fucking around, I don't pick him up. Like, you see, I'll pick up my cat a certain way. Because if I pick up the wrong way and he's not happy, he can bite me.
See what I'm trying to say to you?
If I go, come here, he'll defend himself, basically. But you've got to be careful.
So anything that poses a threat or can harm you.
I love my cat.
You understand what I'm saying to you?
Yeah.
That is the same, because you're playing with something that can have an adverse effect.
Yeah.
If you don't get it, if your intentions is to harm, or to hurt or disrupt in a certain type of way. So like the element of fire, the intention behind it, not that fire is evil, but what it's used for.
Yeah, it can be negative.
It can be destructive. And because in slavery, obeah men and obeah women used to put hexes and curses on the slave master. And in some cases, the slave master used to pick up strange illnesses or die in their sleep. They became looked upon as taboo. They did not like in the Western Hemisphere, in the slave colonial master's consciousness, they did not like the obeah man or obeah woman.
And that's where it became demonized.
Yes.
Since back then.
They didn't like it. But at the same time, when Europe was going through its religious phase, where it was going from pagan Europe to Christian Europe, they didn't like witches.
Oh, I know.
So they used to burn them. So they also had that fear.
And that was, the witches were just shamans almost.
Yeah.
People didn't know about nature and stuff and how things work and how to...
Just in Africa, things changed. We went from pagan to Islamic and Christian.
Yeah.
In Europe, things changed. They went from pagan to Christian. And then they didn't really like the wizards and the witches.
Yeah.
They didn't like wizards, witches.
He's a wizard.
They didn't like sorcerers and
He's a wizard.
Sorcerer and soothsayer. They didn't like warlocks. They didn't like
None of that.
anyone that could.
I'm not a warlock.
Anybody that could cast spells.
Yeah.
Or tap into the netherworld. They wanted people to be under the Christian the Christian Pope or the Christian clergy. They don't want people to dabbling in the dark arts.
That's what them call them. Musa, that was amazing. This is only part one.
Yeah.
And we'll finish with the dark arts. We're going to start with the dark arts next time. What they didn't want us to dabble in. That's how we're going to start the next one, yeah?
Yeah.
It's been emotional. I've really enjoyed talking to you, seriously. Like, I've learned a lot. Like, I enjoy everybody, but I've learned a lot. There's different energies, different times.
We're just getting warm.
We're just getting warm.
I'm living.
It's Musa The Moor, Fawole, the wizard, and we're just warming up. Tune in part one. Make sure you see part two when it comes out. Done, though. Oh, bro. Cool.